Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, January 25th. So happy to be here as we're making a ton of progress on both the website and this curriculum from Microsoft that we've been working in for the last few weeks now. We've worked we worked through the first 3 weeks. We're in our fourth week right here, drawing to canvas. We will be drawing, or no, I'm sorry. Yesterday was drawing to canvas, where we actually created a canvas element and drew some enemies on there, about 25 enemies, and we also added our little spaceship. Today we'll be moving those elements around. So we move those elements around before we add some collision detection and maybe even keeping score, keeping score, and then we conclude with the ending condition, and the game's over. And then after that it's much more business oriented in this web dev class, where it's like, hey, routes and forms and data and state management, which I'm all looking forward to. This is fun, but this is probably going to be the far more practical aspect of it. In all my years of working as an engineer, I actually invoked the canvas element professionally very few times. But then again, I haven't been explicitly hired as a front end engineer. I imagine that's something that front end engineers do often, especially whenever creating far more interactive and stylized interfaces. So, as we usually do, let's update some logs. Dev. What do we? So it is January 25th, lesson 17. And what, we're moving around that, so we need to update some logs that we're taking care of now. After this, we'll be doing the moving around on Canvas lecture. We're going to our home page. What do we want to do in our home page? I don't know. Like, let's see what some of the greats at. Brad Traversy. Traversy Media. He has a good, here an awesome hero section. Out is experience right there. So notify me of new courses. That could be a good one. Or some latest courses and popular courses. Uh, yeah. So we'll look into adding an email hook. Our blog is nowhere near. I put off the dynamic writing, adding an email section and input for what mail sign up, and then that would be in a Mailchimp integration, I believe, and that's gonna be. We'll have to look at documentation for that'll take what that'll be. What we're working on, our latest courses, and then maybe even past courses. And these can be sections that we can reuse in the about. Sell something. Sell something for our section. Sell something. Sell a digital product. Right? Because that's what he's got here. Something for $9.99. What is it? Gumroad.com. Physical book. Okay, cool. His newest course, we don't have that yet. Who is Brad Traversy? This all feels like an about. There's all of the virtues about in the homepage, what he offers, and it's a single page. Cool. Could do that. Who else do we? Some of the grades. What's Fireship? Fireship.io. So he's got. I mean, this looks like a similar section to what we have. Like right here, it's just two columns in a row. I like this T fun. That something like put in a hard truth. And he he does that because that's something that Google Analytics measures. You look down. So I like that suggestion. Like pointing down, more information, and maybe even using emojis. I like emojis, and no matter how you style, they'll be there. Okay, helpful link bottom. Again, it's a single page app, and there's nothing stopping us from doing a single page app until we start adding some courses, labs. Of course, that's what we want. I see why they do that because you don't get long. Like if you know anything about analytics, you know you may get everything's computed in the thousands per thousand, right? So you're lucky to get 10, 20 clicks on products from your homepage. They call that your click through rate, and actually gets people to purchase at like 2% of those thousand people. That's really really good. Yeah, where they have all these courses. Do we want to add courses though? Because everything I make is going to be free. So it looks like I'm going to need to add little like apps, or I'm going to have to really lean into the subscription model. What else do we don't have any courses? Don't know how that's going to parse out. And there's a search. I don't know that. I didn't. Well, it's all cool. He built or not IDE, LMS. He built his own learning management system. Where you have to be logged in, watch certain videos. Got a lead magnet on there too. Let me figure figure out the lead magnet. Figure out lead. What like we've got the domain. We're working on the marketing and the messaging. But how does it make money? Remember, you front end web development. How does it appeal to the user via the UI and the UX, and how do we get around it? So cool. Control update logs. Let's jump to our lesson. Moving around, moving elements. Yeah. No lecture. Again, we jump straight right to the pre-lecture quiz. So let's do it. Any object on the screen can receive keyboard events. Say true. Anything you do with the application, it can be true. You can use the same method to listen to key events and to mouse events. I mean, you use the event listener, add event listener to different elements whenever it happens, certain events. Yeah, but and they could be key events and they could be mouse events. And so true again. I feel like they're going to get me with could be false. So let's go true. Sorry, false. It's different methods. So it would be like on for one, while on click for others. To make things happen at a regular interval, you use what function? Set interval. Set timeout once. Set intervals, the same thing over and over again. And I'm not familiar with set interval. Yeah. Okay. Not so bad. Got 2 out of 3. So games aren't much fun until you have the aliens run around on the screen. That's true. I can agree with that. Keyboard mouse movements and then game induced. So yeah, I just always think about Mario. You know, like Mario's moving on the screen, and then eventually the screen starts moving you, right? So how do we move things on a screen? It's all about these Cartesian coordinates. We change the location X, Y, and then redraw the screen. Typically, you need to be following steps to accomplish movement on a screen. So set a new location for an object, clear the screen, and redraw the object at the new location. That makes sense. So here's what it can look like, where we have set the hero's location, where it's been declared X elsewhere. Suppose your heroes of X and moved up 5. And then we've cleared the rectangle, we fill it back in with everything, and then we pass in the image and the X and the Y. So now it's gone +5 to the right. And then if we were to put that into a for loop, then it would run over and over again and redraw over and over again. Can you think of a reason why redrawing your hero many frames per second might accrue performance costs? I mean, yeah. Pretty obvious. Learn accessibility. Web.dev/learn. WAs. I've been want to learn about that. But read about alternative pattern here. Alternative pattern. Performance. There we go. So maybe the will change property. Into. Yeah. So we found a dead link. So we need to be sure to, I'm going to make a note that, because that gave a redirect to a 404. So found dead link above handle keyboard events. So these handle keyboard events, you can handle events by attaching specific events to the code. We've already explored that. And then once it's as simple as add event listener up of your EV event. Way of describing event, normally just E or the full thing event, but EVT. So if there's an event of a key of arrow up, then do something. Pretty self-explanatory. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining. Love to hear if you've ever made a video game. We're continuing to make our video game today. And then once you've made that event, then you subscribe to it, right? There are 2 properties that you want to use to see if the key was pressed. The key, for example, arrow up, or the key code. Every key on your keyboard has a key code attached to it. And it's crazy. I've seen people play music based on those numbers, knowing what. Key event manipulation is very useful outside of game development. What other uses can you think of for this trick? What else have I used outside of game development and web development where we log keys? What is a good example? I don't know. Besides like saying, hey, am I getting this in my input? So debugging is a useful application of development for debugging, like which make sure that my keys are hitting and these events are registering. But again, I've never produced something so hyper interactive in web development that it should what do you say? Should have like key events attached to it. I'm not a game developer. Special key caveat. Let on key down the function with pass that in an event where the event key code, and in different cases happens. So that means if you were listening for a key up event, special keys move your hero, it will also perform horizontal scrolling. For that reason, you may want to shut off this built-in browser behavior where they break and prevent default. Makes sense. The shut-off mechanism happens when we do this prevent default. We'll see the prevent default often whenever we're making forms, probably next week as you write a form, and once you hit submit, it looks weird if you hit submit and all of the information stays on the form. Like our human brain expects it to jump out like a letter and go somewhere else. So we need to clear that form, and you allow the default in that case. You allow it to continue to happen exactly like what it's saying here. But if you've done something and you want it to reset, then then this prevent default will do it for you. Game induced. So we can make things move by using timers, such as a set timeout, which is one time, or set interval, which is over and over and over again. So here's what that can look at like, where you have your ID, the enemy's ID, and you pass in the set interval and move the enemy on the y-axis. But what is the interval? I'd like to try that. I don't. I feel like you need an interval here. What is the interval? Passing in something. The game loop. The game loop is a concept where you put everything into a function. Yeah, I do this often whenever I write vanilla JavaScript, where all of my script goes in one main function, and then I call that function in the body. Uh, so this game loop that we have right here, the game loop ID, where we have an interval where it's going to continue to run, and so we have you clear the rectangle, then you write another rectangle, a whole new canvas, and then you draw your enemies, you draw your heroes, and you draw your static objects too. That's what I was looking for on the set interval every 200 seconds. That might be a bug. Let's code bug and set interval example. This happens a lot whenever you're just writing what you think is a good example, but you don't test it out because it's not plugged into a greater project context. But you should have some sort of value here to represent what you want to happen, or to represent how often you want the thing that comes right before it to happen. So this at 200, 1,000 is 1 second. So every 20, every fifth of a second, our game loop runs again, and it'll draw the heroes and the enemies and the static objects over and over again. So now we're to continuing the space game. Okay, continuing the space desktop. Oh no, no, that one here. So the continuing the space game. So moving the heroes. We should be or use the code in the part 2 starter. I think we're good because we got our version working. Navigate to the directory. CD clear CD 6 to your the node for work as all the way out. That right there. Pretty good. Okay. That works. So continuing the space game, recommended steps. We have all this. But also wants npm start. Npm start. That's on server 5,000. On 5,500. What happens if we go to localhost 5,000? Thing. Okay, all good. So let's add code. So the above code will start on the HTTP server at this address. So pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen a need to look at more of that technology that right there with that vanilla JS server. Because most serving, like most Node.js servers are made with Express, but I don't think they have Express in here. But I haven't looked at it. So let's add some dedicated objects. Well, no, let's back up because it's actually probably going to have some cues for us, tell us where to go. We don't want to be in 2. We want to be in CD. Let me clear this so you see what I'm doing. CD up a directory with dot dot, and then we're going to go back down a directory into 3 tab. Now I need to go up another CD up. Now 3 moving elements around, and then down into clear, start, crash a bit. Same thing. Okay. And we want to boom at J. Nope. No other notes for us. Okay. Well, fine. We'll work on this. Add dedicated objects for hero and enemy and game object, and they should have X and Y properties. So we're creating a class of the game object with constructor. This is the very top. That could get referenced in our class of game object. Class of game object. Passing everything. No, it knows we need a constructor. That's cool. But we're just looking for X and Y. Yes, we need this X, this Y, but more than that, we're also going to need this dot dead, false, this dot type, actually nothing, string, not nothing, string, this dot width, nothing, 0, this height is 0, and this dot image, img, undefined. Okay. And then we want to draw, still inside of the class, we want to draw where we take context, and it should call tx.drawImage this xy height xy and this width, this height. Okay. Oh, silly. And then now we extend this game object to create the hero and the enemy. Okay, so we need to just outside of this because we need to declare this game object. This is the starting game object, and extends, takes all of the properties that we have right here and adds some different ones. Actually, give values. Like this could be like a blank slate, or it could come with a lot of values by default. But extends, add some. So let's do a class of hero, then game object, constructor of xy, and it looks like we don't have any code right now, but needs, or it's letting us fill it in. It needs x, y, type, and so x for type. We'll trust it. Why not? Okay. And then what about class of enemy? Probably class enemy extend object and a constructor that takes xy with super xy. And this dot width 98 and the height 50. Okay. And then this dot type actually an enemy, and let ID set interval of an anonymous function. This dot y plus, they got 5 right here, probably because they play with it. Not yet. Right. Else interval ID asking like a console log in there. Console log. Stop that. What don't you? Oh, there's an if inside. If this. If this dot y is less than the canvas height minus this height. That makes sense. So if this dot y is less than canvas height minus the other height, this height is this y incremented. Otherwise, say hey stopped at have an interval of every 300 milliseconds, so about a minute. Close this off. Save. So now it's next step is add key event handlers to handle key navigation, throw up and down. Happening with have anything. Cartesian top left is 00 code to stop the behavior. Let on key down. On key down. I guess you'd want this after we created it on load. So let on down function that takes an event. It just wants us to console log the event dot key code for now. Log that, and then window add event listener key down on key down, call it. Just making sure that we're hooked up and actually console log. Down. Not logging that. Right one, right? 5,000. Control C. npm start. Because we don't have node mod. We haven't recompiled it. Yeah, now we're logging all of the keys down here happening in our console. Cool. And note to self, whenever we made changes, be sure to stop our server and start. That happened. So now, add the code from the lesson above. Stop the default bank. I don't know what. If key code. log left, console right. Okay. Another else if up, down. Happens here. Stop our server, restart our game. That and up, down, giving us not only the numbers but also the also the direction. Good. So we got this working. I don't know what it means by to stop the default behavior. Stop the default behavior. Implement the subpub pattern. The publisher subscriber code clean as you follow the remaining parts. Do this last part, you can add an event listener on the window and create an event emitter to publish and subscribe to messages. Add constant, set up the messages. They've like destructured this instead of like a global state to it. Advanced way of doing it. So let's add an event listener on the window because we've already got down. What about key up? So window dot add event up takes in key. If code it's actually arrow up, does it not key code? Event key is equal to arrow up. Event emitter, dot emit messages dot key, all caps, key event up. Else if arrow down, point now, event emitter. Else if arrow left, arrow right. I think we got it there. Okay. Create the event emitter class. Publish and subscribe to the messages top and make sure the class is right after these other ones. Where we have the constructor, this listener, it's listening message that we subscribe to before we clear all of these messages, pass in all of these. And on your constants way above everything. Very top, and these are the all caps wrote subscribing to these messages, looking for the actions that happen before we finally initialize the game. Let's go to the very bottom. After all of this logic has occurred and available, call function game. Run out of time. This is becoming a long lesson. Save that. Game is just where we have our game objects. It's an empty array. Create some enemies. We create the hero. Both different functions earlier in the program. And then here's where we have the event emitters, where they use that pub submodel to subscribe to different events and move around. That way, once I hit the up arrow, it continues to move up until I correct course, like you kind of expect in Space Game. And then, I don't want to say the last part, man, it just keeps going. We also have set up, how are we looking so far in the game? Has it changed at all? Can we, because we've got some play. So npm start, or I'm sorry, we've got some controls. Fresh. Cannot access event emitter before initial 14. High up. Yeah. Or all the way down here. Control C. Nodes our MP start. Okay, no bannies. Now what happens if we move around? Still logging our keys, but it's not moving around like we hope. We hope. Let's and that's because we need to initialize the game and set up a game loop on a good interval. We'll also add the laser beam. We haven't called a knit game. Is that why? Try calling a knit game. What happens if we call a knit game? Property. With. That need after create enemy after we loaded our canvas. That because we'll definitely have it right here, canvas width and height. So let's go ahead and save that, and then try to restart our server and start that cleared up. Nope, it moved it further on down. Now the problem's here. Put into it. Hold up. Let's set up the game loop. Go ahead and just place this, see what happens. Place that with our game loop and add code to move the enemy at a certain interval. Okay. And add a create hero function to process for the hero. Okay. And finally, add a draw game objects to start each of it. Okay. Your enemies should start advancing on your hero spaceships, it says. I don't know. Not feeling the force on this one. Oh, it's repeating. Failed to execute draw image during 2D text. What's going on? I think I need to zoom out. I can read this a little bit better. Because what's happening is it's single threaded and they want everything to be in order. Green. So what order do we need? They want the event emitter at the very top. Class event emitter at the very, very top. Where's class event? Very, very top. That way it's available throughout the application. Makes sense. What happens then? Save. That's a big difference. Then we got our game object. Who extends? We did all that right. They want messages down a little bit, but I don't. That's just an object. It's fine. Fine. Load texture. Good. Messages. That's where it flopped. And so let hero image with our canvas and whatnot. That needs to go up here. Of events. On key down. Of. About this. Create enemies below. Up stuff. Cut. Up. We need create hero game objects above game. Hero draw objects above. What did I say? Above a knit game. Go on load async. Very got bugs. Where's the very end? Bug. I'll try imp start. Reload. Failed to execute draw image. Overload resolution. Still going. What on earth? Okay. So what was our problem now? Draw image. Canvas register 39. What needed to be at 39? Our 39 is draw image. What's their 39? Class hero extends object. Stop. So what did they do? Let's put these messages in the right place because now I'm leery. Do they matter? So after load texture, and then let be right after them. And then this work on load. I thought we loaded that at the very end. Go on load. Go on load. Copy. That needs to be very. It already was. We called it twice. Copy and paste. Now let's run through this and make sure we got it right. So we have event emitter, game object, hero, enemy, load texture, messages, all the event emitters, events on down. So this was the code he was talking about before. Okay, so let on key down the switch where we have the event.key code. And then in each of the case 37, case 39, 38, 40, case 32, and this is each of the keys. Press on, then break. By default, break. What's next? That window listener key down, arrow up, create enemies, create hero, draw objects, a knit game. Have create enemies twice as well. Finally, that window. See if it worked. PM start. Refresh. When all else fails, where's my bug at? Convit. Context. Why not? Was game loop ID. Doesn't work? Does the code sample not even work? Okay. I'm wrong. And look, see, I can move. I gotta press it over and over and over and over and over again. Get out of the way. If I hold it, it doesn't do anything. but I can get out of the way, and this is me mashing on the buttons about as furiously as I can. And nothing should happen. I don't think anything would happen anyways. Ran into. Try that again. But oh look, they kind of stack up. That's cool. They know where the wall's at, but we need to handle what happens whenever they hit that wall. See what happens whenever they hit me. I'm gonna speed up just as quick as I can. 38, 38, 38, and smash. Nothing happens. Okay. That's because in the next lesson we need to handle some event collision stuff. Cool. Okay, we got that done with just minor amounts of frustration. Don't know why that took so long, but I'm glad that the assets and everything lined up well after we copy paste. So cool, we got that done. Let's toggle over. Let's save this. Did the space game. Push those changes. Full origin. Push what we got. Go to my website, our website. And on the list, right, let's npm start while I'm pulling up the list of what we want. I think we wanted to add another section homepage. We got it working okay, but it looks pretty bare. So let's add like something like the latest course. Okay, do that. Where we'll add a section. It'll be right. We'll make a component right in here, and it'll be what we're working on. Call that like a. So let's go in here, and we'll make a new component that go into probably a couple different pages, and we'll call that current project JS component RFC React functional component. Okay, and save that. Let's import it and bring it into the home page, where we'll call port current project. Yeah, current project from current project. Render that. For now, here. We'll probably put it above. Put it between here. Project. Kind of floating there. And so got that in. Now what do we want to do? Everything starts in a container. So let's import container, column, and row. It's like it heard me. Good. Container, row, column, current project, column, row, rocket test server. Not what we're currently. No. We want this to be like an iframe, I think. Maybe even a carousel. So maybe we don't want it to be current project. Maybe we want it to be a projects section where it says, like we've worked on this one, and coming up next. So, yeah. Maybe we'll do that at a current project. No, we still want current project. So what is our current project? We're currently working a project called blah, 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 blah. We don't want that, but we do want an image. That images for this. where we bring in image. Let's rocket test server images. Props do we? So this isn't the current project. We're currently working on a project called not Rocket Test Server, Web Dev for Beginners from Microsoft. And we can get that link pretty easy. .com. Nope, not that one. .dev.com. Website that allows you to test your what? None of that's true. Free open source MIT licensed curriculum learning web development curriculum get you started with a career in programming. See what happens. A little bit better. Now we need the image and the correct source for it. That image, get a good image. Grab all of these. Microsoft Web Dev already pre fancy. And let's cut out the lesson portion. Delete. Dropper. Color, fill that in. Save as. Bump that off. File. Copy. Up and let's put it in our asset. Deal and file asset. That in there. Currently in components, so we need to go up from where we're at down into assets. So go up where we're at, down into assets. Microsoft Web Dev for Beginners, called it. .png. Microsoft Web. Nope. And that's probably because we need import Microsoft. There we go. From assets. And dynamically assign it where we get this curly brackets image. There we go. Okay, a little more full. Like a little better. And maybe put how's it look on mobile? It's awful big. Media queries, and how does it look on mobile? Pretty good. I like that on mobile. Tablet is all right too. It's just desktop. That's a little unwieldy. So let's do a little bit of styling, a touch of styling real quick on our app CSS, our desktop media query. give that current project. Image. Media query. A current project 50. A little bit better. But now it looks kind of weird. Yeah, I like it on here. I think that looks pretty good on a tablet, and even mobile. I think it looks even better on mobile. But on desktop, how do we want it? Let's give it some margin top and margin bottom. Margin. Oh, no. Want to. And about 12. Oh, because we're only working. Get rid of margin for now. Put it like that. And then up here, contact above cards and below the hero image. Call that, what do we, current project? Oh, out of there. Oh, probably because we just have it on 50. And now that we have that, go back down to this contact page. Nope, current project. Margin 0, auto. So now it does auto on left and right and 0 on top and bottom. But we don't want 0 on top and bottom. Something like 2. Oh, again. That to be current project. Margin. Like 2 rem. Auto. Right, so that means it's 2 rem on the top and bottom, auto on the left and right. There. That bumped it down a little bit. That's really big on desktop. Maybe not rem, but REM. Okay, that looks good here. What about on desktop? Really big. Adding more? No. But on desktop, oh, it's because it's giving 12. That's okay. Now what happens? That's better. Still looks kind of barren though. I guess a lot of that's my fault with all of this white background, right? Web dev for beginners from Microsoft. While this is looking so barren, I'm going to go ahead and move below our hero icon section. That way, we have an opportunity to kind of die a little. So it's not, it's inside of our routes. No, it's on our page, on our home page, current project. Cut that, put it below current project, or the icon section. So the familiar website like we've had it, and now we got current project down here. So maybe I'll add a second one that'll be like current project and then next project over here. And then once we have past projects, current project, and future project, then I'll let my game do a carousel where it's automatically rotating. And you can look. But this is a good start. Current project, next project, and then eventually a carousel. This is going through all the content that we've worked through. Would be pretty good. And I need to get better with thumbnails. That much is clear. Okay, cool. I think that's about all the time we got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It means a lot. let's check out. Today we added some logic to moving the elements around, and we got it to where the enemies progressively moving towards us, and as we hit buttons, we can actually move around our little spaceship. Next lesson, we're going to be doing some collision detection. That way, if I decide to feel brave and run headlong into those meteors, something will happen. And also, maybe I can shoot some pew pew lasers uh, and destroy some of those objects on their way towards me. So that's all we got. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow, and be sure to reach out if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.